Fire Sword, Chapter 32. Blades of the Gods. "On your left!" Robin shouted. Chrom ducked just in time for Robin to cast his Elf Thunder spell at Priam, who batted the magical attack away. "Damn it!" "I must admit, it's been some time since I felt this thrilled in a fight." Priam grinned as he moved Ragnell into a striking position. "Color me impressed." The fight between the shepherds and Priam's men had been going on for nearly 20 minutes now, and it was indeed one of the fiercest battles Chrom had ever seen. The only ones that could top it in terms of ferocity and skill were the battles fought against Gangrel and Walhart. "Glad you're pleased," Robin huffed, clutching his side. He had gotten tangled up fighting some of Priam's underlings and had been slashed along his ribcage. The wound was not deep, but it was long and painful. "You said it's some time since you felt a thrill," Chrom said as he too assumed a ready stance. "But you implied that you fought the young Spriggan, and that he was a warrior unmatched." "Yeah, and I meant it," Priam said, his face clouding a bit. "It wasn't fun to fight him, because it wasn't even really a fight. He was toying with me while we fought. He called things a draw after about 10 minutes, and my men bought it, but not me. I know when someone's holding back. Prince." He gave Chrom a pointed look. The exalted prince shrugged and said, "I suppose there's no hiding it, is there?" "What, you've been holding back?" Robin almost shouted. "What, you haven't noticed that I didn't use Aether the whole time?" Chrom asked with a raised eyebrow. "I think you're slipping, my friend." "I think I'm going to cut you across the ribs and see how well you do after 15 minutes, Robin shot back. "Can we finish this?" "I suppose," Chrom said as he faced Priam and felt the power of Aether begin to course through his veins. His brand began to glow with a pale light, and he regripped his sword. "Ready, Priam?" "I was born ready," the other warrior replied. The following blows they exchanged showed just how much they had been holding back before. Robin actually decided to retreat a few yards, because he was having a hard time keeping track of how fast their blades were moving. His head swam, and he felt himself sit down heavily and lean against the remains of a pillar, almost like a puppet whose strings had been cut. "They're so fast," he thought as his vision began to dim. "Then again, they wield blades blessed by gods." He became aware of someone calling his name, but it sounded far away to him. Looking down groggily, he realized that his wound had released more blood than he had thought, and his jacket was stained even darker than its normal shade of color. "Father!" Marth's azure eyes blazed as he saw his father collapse on the stones. Gritting his teeth, he let out a roar that belied his youth and shot forward to lay waste to 3 fighters in as many seconds, desperate to get to his wounded father. "Marth!" his sister shouted after him, but the flow of battle was so fast and fierce a handful of seconds was all it took to separate the twins. "Wait, brother!" she called after him. "Rush her, boys!" another man shouted, urging his comrades to surround her with their blades. Morgan's eyes widened as she was surrounded by 5 men at once, all armed with axes or swords. Moving quickly, she tossed her lightning spell book on the ground and drew her levin sword. "This is your only warning," she said warily. "Back off, or I will hurt you." "Ha!" one of them scoffed. "That's rich, coming from a kid." "I warned you," Morgan muttered. Lightning danced to life on her sword as she whirled it around her body before stabbing the book with it. "Sayonara, suckers!" The book's magical energies overloaded and caused the power it contained within it to explode, electrocuting all 5 men simultaneously and taking the fight out of them. Almost like puppets whose strings had been cut, they flopped on the ground, smoking and twitching. Unfortunately, Morgan didn't fare much better. "Ow!" she groaned as she felt her burning skin. She, too, was smoking and burnt from the unleashed magic energy. She fell to her knees, cradling her body and rocking back and forth mindlessly to try and assuage the agony. "At least it's worked," she thought painfully. "Sort of." "Morgan?" A familiar voice called from nearby. She looked over to see her mother fighting beside her cousin, Owain. The pair quickly moved to get to her, cutting down anyone that came in their way without checking to see if they would live or not. Falchion and Mistletoe worked together in perfect sync, spraying blood all around them as they seemed to dance across the battlegrounds. When they reached the girl, her eyes widened with admiration, despite her obvious pain. "That was so cool," she said as her mother knelt beside her. "Can I do that someday?" "Ha!" Owain grinned. "Only those with the purest of warriors' blood can lay waste to all who oppose them with such style. As the scion of legend and the daughter to the Exalt, it is only natural that your mother and I—" "I'm a child of the Exalt, too," Morgan interrupted, catching Owain off guard. "And my dad is Robin, the greatest of all tacticians. Does that mean I qualify?" Well, Owain, if you don't mind, perhaps we can discuss this matter after my daughter doesn't look like a dragon sneezed on her," Lucina said sharply. "What happened to you, Morgan?" "I blew up my lightning spellbook," she grinned painfully as she indicated her sword, which lay on the ground next to her. "I just hope I didn't ruin my blade." "I hope you learned something like this from like your father would." Lucina sighed. "Where's your brother? Wasn't he supposed to be paired with you?" Yes, but I think something happened to Father, Morgan answered, her brow creasing with worry. Marth went ballistic and ran off that way. She pointed at a spot over where the fighting was thick. I haven't seen him since, which worries me. How long ago was this? Lucina asked as she shot up to her feet. A couple of minutes, Morgan answered. Owain, protect my daughter on pain of your mother's wrath, Lucina ordered her cousin. Understood? Yes, ma'am. Owain saluted, his face white with fear. Before Lucina could run off, he called out, What about a healer? See if Morgan can fire a signal flare, Lucina called over her shoulder. Owain turned to Morgan and asked, So, kid, got any fire spells on you right now? In my jacket left pocket, Morgan grunted. Owain pulled out the book and started thumbing through it. Hey, what are you doing? Morgan asked. I can find the right spell on my own. Stay down, Morgan, Owain said, his voice unusually serious and commanding. I know what I'm doing. Huh? The girl wondered aloud. But you don't use magic, do you? Just because I don't show it off doesn't mean I can't. Owain grinned slightly. Here we are. Thrusting his unoccupied hand skyward, he shouted, Flames of life eternal, grant thy power to the scion of legend! Arc fire! A roaring river of flame shot up, impossible to miss by any means if you were on the island. Whoa. Morgan blinked. Owain grinned as he put the book back in her pocket and put a finger to his lips. Our secret for now, okay, little cousin? Okay, Morgan grinned, on one condition. Oh? Owain grinned daringly. And what may this request be? You have to teach me how to come up with cool monologues like you do, Morgan replied. Then their laughter could be heard by all nearby, and they wondered at it. Father, wake up! Marth begged as he shook his father's shoulders. Robin did not respond, but at least he was still breathing. Marth tore off his cape and quickly used it to fashion a makeshift bandage from the man's ribs. It wouldn't do much right now, but at least it would slow the bleeding a little bit, he thought. Damn it, why did Grandfather order every fairy to fight in the sky? He seethed. I could use Sachi's help right now. Son, behind you! Lucina's voice called out. Not bothering to check, the boy threw himself to the side just in time to dodge a spear thrust that struck near Robin's face. Marth spun and brought his elbow up in a vicious strike that connected solidly with the jaw of his attacker, stunning him and sending him reeling. He was then taken out by his mother's falchion, which sprouted from his chest before withdrawing almost immediately after. Coward, attacking a man concerned for his comrade, he muttered darkly. Looking up, he went to thank his mother, but stopped when he saw the look in her eyes. Mother? He asked as he backed a few paces away from her thunderous expression. What in Grima's hell were you thinking, leaving your sister behind on a battlefield? She demanded. First rule of the shepherds, never leave your partner behind. Ever! But Father was wounded and she can handle herself. His excuse was cut off as his mother slapped him across the cheek, stunning him. Your sister looks like Lady Nowie just spit on her, Lucina said furiously. She's wounded because you were too busy trying to play the hero saving your father alone. You should have told her what you were doing so she could have come along, Lucina cut him off. But instead, here you leave her on her own, with no backup or support of any kind. A Valmy's man tried to take advantage of the situation by stabbing at her from behind, but she just sidestepped the attack before whirling around and hitting him on the side of the head with the flat of falchion, knocking him out. Marth blinked once in surprise. He'd never seen anyone this angry, and it was definitely something to behold. Young man, you never, ever leave your partner alone on the battlefield, Lucina said sternly, even if it means giving up your own life to save theirs. She paused to let her words sink before her bearing relaxed a little bit and her gaze switched over to Robin. How is he? She asked as she knelt beside him. He's not in any condition to move, Marth said as he decided to stay standing and watch out for any approaching enemies. He lost quite a bit of blood, so I bandaged him as best I could. Lucina muttered to herself. Reaching for her belt, she grabbed a small vial and pulled out the stopper with her teeth. She had to force-feed Robin the liquid, but eventually she managed to get him to drink the elixir. He coughed and spat a bit before clutching at his wounded side in pain. Ow! He grunted. All right. Next time Chrom wants a sword partner, I'm sending Marth instead of going myself. He looked up in surprise to see the caring face of Lucina, who smiled a bit worriedly at him. Hello, she said. Hey, he grinned painfully. Licking his lips a bit, he wondered, what am I tasting? An elixir that Severin and Aunt Lisa invented, Lucina reminded him. Have you never had one? I never needed one before today. Robin shook his head. I usually just waited for a healer after the battle. Well, it seems that this battle is almost over with, Marth said as he noticed the number of fighters dwindling. He could see some of the warriors of Alfheim engaged with ground troops, so it was probably safe to assume that the skies were cleared by now. Maybe out there, Robin nodded. But as for your grandfather... He pointed up the hill to indicate Priam and Chrom, who were still going strong. We should help them, Marth said impulsively. No, leave them be, Robin said quickly. I think they want to settle it one-on-one at this point. But what if father loses? Lucina asked. Robin grinned at her and kissed her cheek as he said, That's my son. Then my son and his lovely mother can go and kick his rear end in the dirt. Lucina flushed scarlet while Marth turned away, embarrassed at the display of affection. Robin had to chuckle at both of them, even though it still hurt. For now, he said, let's just wait and see what happens. I have faith in Chrom. Overhand, backhand, undercut, thrust, crossguard. Chrom's sword moved so fast that his conscious self was 3 steps behind his body's movement. He was covered in sweat, his arms were numb from the vigorous pounding that Priam had given Falchion, and his head throbbed painfully. His only consolation was that Priam looked just as tired as he felt. Still feeling thrilled, Chrom gasped as their swords locked and they tried to shove each other back. The other man grinned. I admit, it's starting to get a little hot out here. Can't take the heat, huh? Chrom grinned back. Doesn't sound like you have too much left either, his opponent gasped. So how's about we settle this now? What did you have in mind? Chrom grunted. I think... He stumbled forward as Chrom suddenly stopped resisting and sidestepped out of the way. He followed that up with a boot to his back that sent Priam tumbling down the hill until he hit a rock with his face and came to a sudden stop. Then, to everyone's shock, he got up to his feet, albeit unsteadily. Blood was coming out of a cut in his face, but he was grinning broadly. He chuckled. That was pretty low for a royal. He's not your average royal, Robin said, causing Priam to look over at him blearily. But everything he does to make sure that he can protect those closest to him. Then the blond man grinned slightly and said, well, almost everything. What do you mean, almost everything? Chrom shouted from where he stood so that he could be heard over the sounds of the dying battle. You did try to kill me after you found out about Lucina and me, Robin reminded him, causing his other half to blush red again. You went behind my back, Chrom said as he strode downhill. I told you we'd only just realized our feelings for each other, Robin tossed back. And I told you... Father, please, Marth shouted, surprising everyone. Can we finish the fight so we can tend to our wounded? Fight's done, kid, Priam said as he wiped blood out of his eyes. I said I would only take orders from a man who knows, really knows, how to use a blade. He turned to Chrom and gave him an informal salute. Think I'll sign on, Prince. Captain, Chrom said as he sheathed his sword and held out his hand. But everyone calls me Chrom. The 2 men shook hands and the deal was struck. Actually, Morgan and I call you Marth. If you ruin this moment, I will have your mother confiscate Falchion from you, Chrom said without looking over. And I'll do it, Lucina said all warningly, all business again. You're still in hot water in case you think I had forgotten. What did he do? Robin asked. What did I miss? Lucina looked over at Marth, who was shamefaced, and suddenly she felt that the aftermath of a battlefield was no place to discuss what he had done wrong. He did the wrong thing for the right reasons, she finally said. Come on. We'll discuss the rest of what happened over dinner. Alright, so, I remember initially I hadn't even actually planned on putting this chapter in. It was only after a few people in the reviews to the previous chapters mentioned, hey, what were the shepherds up to the whole time? You know, how did the fight with Chrom and Marth go? Chrom and Priam. And I thought, you know, they're right. That does deserve its own turn. And I also thought it was good. I thought it was a good opportunity to take a look at what Momma Lucina was like, and I think I did all right. I think I did all right with that. You know, she's mostly withdrawn, but I felt like, you know, if you push the wrong buttons, like leaving her daughter behind on a battlefield alone and seeing her wounded, whoever's responsible is going to end up in some serious trouble, even if it's her own son. So that was fun to write. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. I had initially planned on immediately moving to the chapter where they encounter a wounded Emran, but that got pushed back a chapter, and that'll be happening next time. So in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this chapter. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon so you know when each new video is coming out. Make sure you check my channel on Thursdays for the Throwback Thursday gameplay videos of Sonic Adventure DX at the current time. Pretty soon we'll be filming response videos for Saiyan Tail, chapter 21 or chapter 22. I've honestly lost count at this point. As well as a response video for the latest chapter of Red Swordsman, as I will be releasing the newest chapter of the Red Swordsman Shattered Fragment for Memorial Day weekend. And I think that's all I've got for you guys today. Take care, guys. Red Swordsman out.